In the previous session, we have seen one of the method under reciprocal services method, that is simultaneous equation method. That is, when two service department exchanges services, then we can follow one on the three method. That is, we have three methods, namely simultaneous equation method, repeated distribution method, and trial and error method. In this case study, we are going to understand what is this repeated distribution method. So to understand that, let's look at this case. PH Limited is a manufacturing company having three production departments A, B and C and two service departments X and Y. Following is the budget for December 2015. So you have three production departments and two service departments, and you have the budget for the period December 2015, and you have the information about their direct materials of all the five departments, direct wages of all the five departments. And these cost is not a matter of concern because they are directly identified with each and every department. So what is a matter of concern is that the expenses which are incurred in common and which have to be apportioned. Look at here, you have factory expenses which is incurred for all the five departments for $4,000. Power expenses, all the five departments for $2,500. Depreciation, $1,000 for five departments. You have other overheads. So the question is how these expenses have to be apportioned between these five departments. So you got certain additional information. You have information about the area in square feet. If you look at here, you have the information of area occupied by department A, which is 500 square feet. Department B is 250 square feet. Department C 500 square feet. And department X and Y, they take 250 and 500 square feet. So altogether you have a 2000 square feet, and for this 2000 square feet $4,000 has been spent. So how much is for department A? 2000 square feet for $4,000, then for 500 square feet that's going to be $1,000. So in that way we can apportion the factory rent cost based on the square feet. Next, what you have is capital value of assets. I mean, you have the information about $20 lakh assets maintained by department A, $40 lakh maintained by department B, and so you have some information and how you can make use of this information. Here you have the depreciation cost. Depreciation cost can be apportioned between these five departments based on the capital value of assets. Then you have information about mission hours. That is, how many hours the missions have been run by these respective departments. So how you are going to make use of it. And you should not suddenly jump to a conclusion that the power cost can be apportioned merely on the basis of mission hours. No, because each mission may be running for certain hours, but the HP which is consumed by each mission will vary. Look at here, the mission which was present in department A, it consumes 50 units of horsepower, right? And whereas department B consumes only 40 horsepower, and department C consumes only 20 horsepower, and department X and Y, they consume only 15 and 25. So you cannot jump to a conclusion on distributing this power cost by merely looking at the mission hours, because mission hours may even be uniform but horsepower will tend to be different. So what we have to do is we have to multiply this horsepower and mission hours so that we get a value, and that should be used as a basis for apportioning the power cost between all the five departments. Then you got the other overheads. Probably what we can do is we can apportion this overheads based on mission hours, but that's not the case with power. Power is directly related with horsepower of machines and machinery running hours, whereas other overheads we can apportion on the basis of mission hours. So in this way we can apportion each and every cost. But again, there are two service departments. We should understand to whom these service departments are rendering services, and here you have that information. Service department X will render its service to department A, B, C as well as to department Y, and service department Y is rendering services only to A, B. It is not rendering service to C, but it renders service to the other service department X. So what you have to understand is service department, they exchange services and they don't service all the departments. Service department X services all the departments, whereas service department Y services only department A. B, it does not service department C, but it services department X. So based on this information, you are required to answer certain 3 questions. Number 1, you have to show a statement wherein you will distribute the overheads to various departments. That is, first of all, you should know what are the overheads. Yes, these are all the overheads, but how these overheads are going to be distributed, that we have to calculate in a statement. Then statement 2, we have to show the redistribution of service department expenses. Yes, service department X and Y will have some expenses. They will have additional expenses. In addition to this, there will be additional expenses because of distribution of these overheads. So those have to be redistributed to the production departments A, B and C, and we have to show that statement. And the third one is we have to find mission hour rate of production departments of A, B, C. That is nothing but we'll derive the total cost of A, B, C, that has to be divided by the number of mission hours, so we will get mission hour rate. So we'll get started. So first we have to prepare this overhead distribution summary, that is our question 1, and for that we have to prepare a table. This can be the table structure. So let's allocate or apportion each and every item. We'll get started with number 1, the direct material cost. So we have this direct material cost, but the question of apportionment of direct material cost as far as department A, B, C are not arising because directly they are apportioned. So only the department X and Y's direct material and wages cost have to be apportioned, and we'll do that now. So first we'll write here item A, direct material. As far as department A, B and C are concerned, they are directly allocated, so the question of apportionment does not arise. But department X and Y, they have $2,000 and $1,000. So I'll write here 2,000 and 1,000. Similarly, we have direct wages. Direct wages, again it is a direct allocation as far as the 3 production departments are concerned. So only for the service department X and Y we have, and it is $1,000 and $2,000. The next comes the area of apportionment. We should get started with a factory rent, and the total cost is $4,000, and factory rent have to be apportioned on the basis of area of square feet. So I'll write here it's factory rent, and this factory rent have to be apportioned on the basis of area of square feet, and factory rent cost is $4,000, and the ratio which we should follow is this. That is, on this proportion the factory rent should be apportioned, that is 5:2.5:5:2.5:5. So we'll do that. So if you apportion 4,000 in that proportion, you would get $1,000 for department A, 500 for department B, $1,000 for department C, and 500 and 1,000 for department X and Y. The next one is power. As far as the power cost is concerned, we have to keep in mind that we should multiply horsepower into mission hours. Okay, so you have here horsepower as 50 and mission hours as 1,000, so it will be 50,000 horsepower hours, and in the same way you have to multiply for all the 5 departments. You will get a ratio, and on that ratio this power cost of 2,500 have to be apportioned. So we'll write the basis of apportionment as HP multiplied by mission hours, and we know the total cost as 2,500. So this have to be apportioned on the basis of HP multiplied by mission hours, and you would get 500 for department A, 800 for B, then 800 for department C, 150 for department X, and 250 for department Y. Next we'll move on to the other cost. What we have is a depreciation. which is 1,000, and that can be apportioned on the basis of capital value of assets. So I'll write here depreciation, and this can be apportioned on the basis of capital value, and the total value of depreciation is $1,000. So if you apportion them on that ratio, you would get 200 for department A and 400 for department B, $200 for department C, then $100 and $100 for department X and Y. Then what is the last item that is pending? It is other overheads for $9,000. So we'll write them here, other overheads, and these other overheads can be apportioned on the basis of machinery hours, and it is $9,000. So if you want to derive the ratio for apportionment, machinery hours is nothing but 1:2:4:1:1. So we'll apportion this $9,000 exactly in that proportion, and it's going to be $1,000 for department A, $2,000 for department B, $4,000 for department C, and $1,000 and $1,000 for department X and Y. So in this way we have derived, or we have apportioned all the expenses. Now what we have to do is we have to total this, because this is the overheads which have to be apportioned. I mean, especially we have to find what is the total overheads of department X and Y, because that have to be reapportioned. So we'll total them. So the grand total works out to $16,500, and for department A it is $2,700, department B it is $3,700, department C it is $6,000, department X it is $4,750, and department Y it is $5,350. In this way we have answered question 1. Then we'll move on to the question 2. Question 2 is you have to prepare a statement showing redistribution of service department expenses to production departments. Here we have calculated the service department expenses, which is $4,750 and $5,350. Now these expenses have to be apportioned between these three departments. And how we are going to do it? We are going to follow a repeated distribution method, because one department, I mean one service department, services the other and also receives services. So there is an exchange of service. So we are going to follow a repeated distribution method. So we'll construct this small table for redistribute the service department expenses. Before that, let's write what are the total overheads which we have answered in our question 1. So what are the total overheads? Let's see here. We have computed the total overheads as $2,700 to $5,350. Let's write them here. Total overheads. For department A it is $2,700, department B $3,700, department C $6,000, department X $4,750, and department Y $5,350. Next, what we should do is we have to apportion the overheads of service departments to the production department. But if you go back to the question, it says service department X renders its service 45% to department A, 15% to B, 30% to C, and 10% to department Y. So the cost incurred by service department have to be apportioned between these four departments in the ratio of 45:15:30:10. So we'll do that. What we have to do is apportion department X overheads. So we are going to apportion this 4,750. So I'll write minus 4,750. I'll write here it is minus 4,750, and this has to be apportioned in the ratio of 45:15:30:10. So we'll do that. So 4,750 into 45 divided by total of this will get 2,138. Similarly, 4,750 into 15 divided by total, we would get 712. 1425 and remaining 475 for department Y. So in this way, what we have done is we have apportioned all the cost of department X to ABC department as well as to department Y. So now it is the turn to apportion the cost of department Y. So I'll write here apportion department Y overheads. So how we will apportion department Y overheads? You have it here. Department Y renders its service 60% to department A, 35% to department B and 5% to department X. It does not render any service to department C, so we have to keep that in mind. So we'll write here the ratio is going to be 60:35:5. What we have to keep in mind is this is A, B and X. So now we have to take the total expenses of department Y, which is 5,350 plus 475. So this 5,825 have to be apportioned between three departments. We are not going to apportion anything to department C, so we'll block the department C now itself. We are not going to apportion anything. So 5,825 multiplied by these ratios, we will get 3,495, 2,039 and 291. So now what happened is this 5,825 was apportioned between three departments, but you have now created a new share for department X, which we closed already. So department X has got a new share of expense, which again have to be apportioned between other departments in the old sharing ratio, that is 45, or sorry, in the exact sharing ratio, that is 45:15:30:10. So we'll do that. So I'll write here apportionment of department X overheads, and the ratio what we are going to follow here is 45:15:30:10, and the departments are actually A, B, C and Y. So we are going to transfer this 291. So I'll write here minus 291, and that is going to be transferred on this ratio. So you will have 131, 44, 87, and again department Y is getting a share. Actually we had closed all the items in department Y. Two items added together we have distributed or apportioned, but again now department Y is getting a new share. So what we have to do is we have to apportion this to other departments. So we'll write that apportion department Y overheads, and it's going to be in the ratio of 65:35:5, that is between A, B and X. And so we'll write minus 29 because we are going to apportion this, and we are not going to do anything on department C. So this 29 will be apportioned in this ratio, which will give you 17, 10 and 2. So again department X has got a share that has to be apportioned. So apportion the department X overheads in the ratio of 45:15:30:10. That is between A, B, C and Y. So I'll write here it's going to be minus 2. So if you apportion this now, you will get very low value numbers. Probably department A will get 1, department B will not get anything because of a lower value, department C would get 1, and department Y will not get anyone. So with this stage, all the expenses of department Y is also closed and department X is also closed. So now it's time to total. We'll total. So the total of department A is $8,482 and department B is $6,505. Department C is $7,513. So in this way all the expenses of service department got distributed and redistributed to the production departments. Now we'll move on to question C. Question C, we have to find mission hour rate of production for department A, B and C. Calculating mission hour rate is very simple because we have to calculate mission hour rate for all the three departments. So we'll write particulars department A, B and C. In that item 1 we should write mission hours. How many hours were taken by each department? We have this information in question, that is $1,000, 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours and 4,000 hours. So I'll write here 1,000, 2,000 and 4,000. And the question is, find out the mission hour rate. So what is the rate per mission hour? So you have to divide this mission hours from the total cost, right? Because we have already calculated the total expenses of all the 3 departments. We did this in previous question, and here we have the total cost. So we'll write the total cost, okay? Or what we'll do is we'll simply divide this total cost by mission hours. So we'll get the mission hour rate easily. So mission hour rate is going to be the total cost divided by number of hours, and for department A it's going to be $8,482 divided by 1,000 hours, and it will be $8.48 per hour. And for department B it's going to be $6,505 divided by 2,000 hours, and it's going to be 3.25. and for department C it's going to be $7,513 divided by 4,000 hours, and it's going to be $1.88 per hour. So the mission hour rate is this.